Now in Columbus, Ohio, we are given one of the most important narratives to this point, to our research, in my opinion. We have the Pontifical College, Josephinum, where Joseph comes over to the USA from Germany in 1867. 3 years later, he becomes a priest and has his own church within a few months. And he gets to buy the house next door, of course, to support 12 orphans. And do we all know about the orphans at this point? Possibly a repopulation tactic that was going on in the 1800s. It's very interesting. Was it only 12 orphans? Or was this one of the places that they would send the orphans through to get them into society? Because who would ever question Joseph the priest from the 1800s? You know, the guy that just randomly shows up from Germany, has all the money ready to buy houses somehow, to support orphans. It all checks out, of course. Simple stuff for Joseph. This was known as the St. Joseph Orphan Asylum. It grew so rapidly, for some weird and of course, very random reason, that 5 years after it began, Joseph moved the operation closer to the railroad, which is how these individuals would be dispersed throughout the country. So this is a paragraph of admission. We are being told, down to the smallest detail, how this operation worked. It would go through churches. They would bring a manager type over from Europe, call them a priest, give them a house, give them the resources to run these operations, purchasing new buildings with ease to run the program. So not only do you have the World's Fairs that were a repopulation tactic, you had these orphan trains and orphan hubs where they would be dropped off and planted into society. The new facility that Joseph was just finding and saying was his. I want to make that clear, he wasn't building anything. He was given these buildings that were already there from the previous civilization. So the new building gave the orphans a training in the trades. So this Joseph guy was obviously sent with a purpose, to repopulate and teach to a brand new society, one that didn't have any skills. This right here is how you reset a society's technology level. The teacher is never in charge of what the students learn. This Joseph character is a teacher of a class. He is not the principal of the school. There are many schools. He is clearly taking direction as to what the students of the new society will learn. There were many classes like this one all over the country, happening simultaneously. This was an operation. This went on for 12 years with zero backstory. Finds the Collegium Josephinum, this massive college, is just found and ready to roll. No clue where the money came from. No mention of how many men were needed to build this place. Just found it. And its first class of 23 men began. It's unbelievable. This is one of the most important stories to our research, in my opinion, because it shows exactly how the operation took place. It's actually laying it all out there and shows us exactly how they repopulated these regions in the USA. It shows us the operation with the orphans, the teaching programs. And this was our base for our technological knowledge. Whoever controlled this operation from the top has all of the technology from the previous civilization and is controlling what technology we get to have. And they've clearly been doing this for a very long time. And for anyone that's on the fence, we have the St. Vincent's Infant Asylum, located in Baltimore, where we have tunnels under the ground. This infant asylum was in use in the mid-1800s, during the same time period as German transferred Joseph. And what do you know? In the early 1900s, the operation was done, and they declined new orphans. 1941, they changed this to apartments. And in 2015, they light it up and try to destroy it with a fire, but they fail. So 3 years later, what do you think happens? 2018, the building was illegally demolished without a permit. You literally can't make this stuff up. It gets more and more obvious. If you're still on the fence, let's go even deeper. We have the St. Mary's Orphan Asylum, located in Galveston, Texas, where they tell us that this one is haunted. Now, I've talked about hauntings before briefly. I'm not going to say that there aren't any hauntings, but when it comes to these old world buildings, I think it was a tactic to keep people away from them. Just say that they're haunted, and it scares everyone away from investigating. So we have yet again another orphan operation going on in the mid-1800s. And I'm just going to let you know that this is going on and on and on. There were so many orphan operations going on in the mid-1800s because this was how they were repopulating these cities. So where were all these kids' parents? Is this where a lot of our families originated from? Is this why the family trees in the USA almost all end around the same time period? We are told hundreds of fire stories through the first 52 episodes. We know that that is the key and the nod, that it's a building that was constructed by the previous civilization. The St. Mary's Orphan Asylum. For anyone wondering where the parents of these orphans were, you might want to check the other asylum, the insane asylum, because they were not going along with the reset. Here's a graph showing that the insane asylums are disappearing over time, and I wonder why. Good thing they cared so much about us in 1955 and 1965, because surely that was the fix. Oh, it wasn't? And then a fire had devastated the St. Mary's Orphan Asylum in 1875. If anyone is still on the fence, there is room over here to get off the fence. And honestly, who would want to sit on top of a fence anyway? So we have Ohio, Baltimore, Texas. We have all these towns and cities being repopulated. Brand new people, brand new social structures, brand new mindsets, and resetting what people are taught. This all happened around 150 years ago. So this is all very new. This isn't thousands of years ago. Then we have another very interesting aspect of this in Germany during this same exact time period. And remember, we also have good old Joseph from earlier, also from Germany. So here we are given the Kinder Bewahrenstalt. And if I pronounce that wrong, I hope you all understand. This is where we are given kindergarten, another tactic to teach children the brand new social structures. What better way to trick people? Take them out of their family's home and tell them what to think, and then test them on it. Failing the test will then lower your self-esteem, putting a social pressure on children to agree with this new way of thought, or they will be called dumb and get an F. This is an operation. It's all connected, and it's designed to enslave the world's population. Year after year, we are all taught a false narrative. We've all been brainwashed into thinking that you are either smart or dumb based on a curriculum that holds zero value in the real world. Now, who knows if this Frederick Froebel was even a real character, but they do admit that kindergarten starts in Germany around the exact same time period that we're talking about, the mid-1800s. So I wanted to tie it all in with the rest of the world. This is a worldwide operation. This is not just the USA. We have a lot of things in the USA being controlled through Germany during this time period, especially the education aspect of it. And I want to point out that yes, we have borders and division now. We're also running a fundraiser to help families with medical debt. Every dollar wipes out about $100 of debt. Nobody's waking up today asking for medical debt, which is why I picked this fundraiser. The system that we all live in is obviously a mess, and it's not set up to help people at all. We're all in it together, and I think the only way to see real change is to help each other at this point. Nobody else is coming to save us. So let's show how awesome this community really is. We're not just about exposing the past. I'd love for this channel, what we've all built, to be a place that's known for helping people and their kids. We are on YouTube. We're on Rumble, X, Instagram, TikTok, BitChute, and Spotify, if you're looking for even more content from us. We're also on eBay. A lot of people wanted the episodes in a physical archive, and that's where you can find them. We have so many countries in the world, and everyone is separated, and you're unable to travel to other lands unless you have a piece of paper that is registered and checked at the checkpoints. But who's to say that there even was a border in the previous civilization? Were there so-called elected leaders controlling everyone, deciding what we can and cannot do? Could they have had a truly free life where they were able to travel wherever they want freely and not feel like they're invading someone else's territory? I would say, in my opinion, this was the world that was here before the reset. And something happened where this past civilization was wiped out and their technology was stolen by a group, and some of it is now being sold back to us strategically. The good stuff is kept to control the masses and used for their benefit. Here we have the St. Joseph's Orphanage, located in Vermont. And if you want to know where they get these horror movies, where they show a nun doing crazy things, there's a dark truth to it. These movies don't come out of nowhere. They come from the last 150 years. Here in Vermont, in the mid-1800s again, thousands of children came through its doors. If you want to demoralize, control, and manipulate a new population, Make them completely forget their past and never question what they're told. You would make them suffer. You would take them from their families, and you would ruin their mind at a young age. We have more than 5 million American children passing through the orphanage system in the 1900s alone, hitting its peak in the early 1900s. So it began in the mid-1800s and really ramped up to populate these cities. The American orphanage system included more than 1,600 institutions, partly supported by public funding, but usually run by religious orders, exactly like we talked about in the beginning of this episode. So I think we have now a very solid understanding how the USA was repopulated, how this operation took place, and exactly when it took place. I think that we now have factual evidence as to when this reset really happened. And I think that every episode that is released makes episode 10 and 38 stronger and stronger, giving us more and more proof to our true history. In 1959, the Chicago Tunnel Company went out of business, of course, and sold everything for $64,000. To who? Who bought this company and acquired all of their assets, or the old world's assets? According to the Chicago Tribune, the city assumed control of the tunnel system. So there we have it, where we find out that more buildings are connected, or they used to be, when in the early 1940s, the subway cut it off from the major department store clients along State and Dearborn, such as the Boston store. They have an underground tunnel. Carson Perry Scott got one too. The Fair, the Davis store, Mandel Brothers, and F.W. Woolworth and Company. All of these buildings got a tunnel back then, all connecting these buildings. And we of course remember the accidental flood from 1992, where it was of course an accident. Wait, what is this? A court case where it was revealed that the city was aware the tunnel was leaking before the flood. And the city basically allowed it to happen, where they knew it was leaking and did not properly maintain the tunnel, allowing for the breach and the destruction of the tunnel. Very interesting information. I wonder why they allowed it in 1992, where we are told that a man named George W. Jackson led the Illinois Tunnel Company. And when you begin to dig into this guy's narrative, it begins to reveal everything. When we find an article in the Chicago Examiner from January 1909, this entire operation, this company, is tied to something very strange here. Remember when we were told the public map in 1910? Well, right before 1910, an event took place in 1909, 1 year before. The cost of construction had bankrupted the Illinois Tunnel Company, which is the exact same year. All a coincidence, of course, that this event took place as well. 1909, same year. 67 didn't make it by fire in an unprecedented lake disaster. Flames follow explosions. All of this happening 2 miles from the shore, inside the tunnels, where 48 were recovered. And it is known that many others are beneath the surface of the lake. Again, I'm going to ask you all, are we sure that these fire narratives are what they are? Are they not nods telling us what they found? I'm simply asking questions because we have seen so many times that these questions end with answers. Exact identification will probably never be made of many of them, for most of them are headless, burned or dismantled, all connected to George W. Jackson Company. Were these bones found within the tunnels, possibly bones of the past, and explained away with this narrative? Trapped in the tunnel 160 feet below the ground, a fire that was actually an explosion, according to Chicagoology.com, where the source of the fire is that an explosion happened 3 minutes before the flames. Destruction of the past? Destruction of what they found? Where the dates are exact. And now switching from the Illinois Tunnel Company to the Chicago Tunnel Company, where another idea that I'm going to throw out there right now is that, is it possible that these tunnel systems were of course there, from the past, from the previous civilization. But did these tunnels hold things inside them? Things that we have seen in episodes 72 and 78. Were these tunnel systems found underneath Chicago? Thousands of miles of tunnels. Where else have we seen this? Odessa? Paris? What are inside those tunnels today? Have these tunnels in Chicago been cleaned out of what was once there and then given a new purpose? What are we finding? The deeper we go, the more information we gather. Thinking logically, why would they go through the trouble to create thousands of miles of tunnels under the city when they had dirt roads, creating all of these tunnels and only to use them from 1904 to 1959, using them for only 55 years and then blocking them off to the public?